It was billed as Iowa Senator Tom Harkin's annual steak fry event, but it felt more like a Hillary for President rally this weekend. Hillary Clinton added more fuel to the 2016 speculation fire when she and former President Clinton attended the event, filled with cheering fans and people wearing "Ready for Hillary" buttons.
I'm back! Well, it is true. I am thinking about it. But for today, that is not why I'm here. I'm here for the steak.
But a new Wall Street Journal NBC News poll shows support for the former Secretary of State dropping, even in her own party. Let's frame the debate with Democratic pollster Margie Omero and GOP pollster Chris Wilson. Thank you both for being with me. And Chris, I want to start with you. Hillary Clinton came in third in the Iowa caucuses in 2008 behind Edwards and Obama. Did she put the ghost of 2008 to rest, you think?
Well, I don't think she can do that in one trip, and she certainly can't do it with this being her first visit in 7 years. But I think what this did show us, it gives us a window into what's going to be a very complicated run for president. I mean, three things that I noticed is, one, her absolute aversion to retail politics. Two, the awkward nature in which way she approaches it. I mean, she's nowhere near the star her husband Bill is. And three, the difficulty she's going to have separating herself from the Obama administration, which is stumbling itself to the end of a second miserable term, and her inability to take a stand on issues on her own. And even Tom Harkin, who invited her, said that he had real questions about where she stands on issues, and I think that's going to be a very big challenge for her as she now looks to run for president.
Margie, I presume you don't see it exactly the same way.
Yeah, I saw a crowd that was pretty excited for her to be there. I saw her focusing on really the immediate task, which is helping Bruce Braley in his race for Senate and making sure the Senate stays in Democratic hands. I saw her making jokes. I see her and former President Clinton both net favorable in the polls consistently. So I think I was watching a different clip than Chris.
And I want to take you, Margie, into the numbers a little bit, because the latest Wall Street Journal poll does show a severe drop among registered voters. Take a look at this. Among Democrats, the numbers have also fallen. Are you concerned about these numbers? Are people getting tired of you know, big Clinton rollouts like one of the ones we saw, you know, a couple months ago with her book?
No, look, I think that those numbers are pretty small differences. You're going to see them change a zillion times between now and when the primary and certainly by the time the general rolls around. So I think this is just a sign of people just beginning to pay a little bit of attention to the race and maybe thinking, well, you know, I'm not sure where I stand. But ultimately, Democrats are really excited about former Secretary Clinton. Again, she's net favorable. So's the former president. And you don't have the internal fighting going on the Democratic side that you definitely see on the Republican side. So I feel like things are looking really good for her right now.
And Chris, it just seems to me that if she does decide to run, and I personally see all indications are that she probably will decide to run, it's going to be a really strong candidate, you know, within the Democratic Party and then in a general.
Well, I think her greatest asset right now is that after the failures of the Obama administration, Clinton fatigue, which did exist in 2008, has now gone away. And there may be, certainly Democrats, there's a certain longing for the Clinton years whenever they didn't have the sorts of political and foreign policy and even domestic policy failures that they're now having with the Obama administration. So I think from that standpoint, it does give her a level of strength. The other thing I saw coming out of Iowa is a little bit of a window into the type of general election campaign she would run, which is doubling down on the Obama playbook of 2012 in trying to assert the gender politics, where you really, it's sort of a cynical ploy to create a gender warfare situation to bring unmarried women out to the polls. And I think you certainly saw indications of that from the speech and her visit yesterday. So, but moving into 2016, I still believe she's going to have real challenges just because of those foreign policy failures.
Is it really cynical to reach out to women who make up a majority of the electorate? I mean, that's now considered political as opposed to the obvious,
reaching out is one thing,
make
creating
a majority
warfare and driving wedges is something entirely different.
All right, so Margie, Margie, why don't you finish your thoughts on that? First on the women issue, but in general, the question I was asking him about a formidable candidate that she could or could not make.
No, she is a terrific candidate. She's obviously battle-tested and is able to put in the paces and go the distance of a campaign. Certainly prove that not just as a candidate, but as Secretary of State, and how hard she worked and how she was on the road so consistently. I just think it's crazy to say that talking about gender pay equity and the minimum wage and things that have nearly universal support, even majorities of Republicans support a lot of those proposals, somehow gender politics, that just makes good economic sense, and it makes good political sense, not because it's a man versus woman, because most Americans think that people should be paid a living wage, and that women should be paid as much as men for doing the same job.
And Margie, I just wanted about the whole Clinton differentiation between President Clinton and then she as a candidate, should she choose to run. Should she back away from some of, I mean, in other words, how closely do you ally yourself with President Clinton versus President Obama? And they each have very strong accomplishments for the Democratic Party.
I mean, look, it's going to be difficult for, and it's impossible, really, for Hillary Clinton to separate herself from her husband or from President Obama, given that she's married to one and worked with the other. But nonetheless, I think most of America knows that Hillary Clinton has her own mind, her own views, her own position, her own style, and that's going to continue to show through if she decides to run.
Margie Olmedo and Chris Wilson, thank you both for your time. Really appreciate it this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, recess so soon? The countdown may be on to the midterms, but there's plenty of work for this Congress to deal with right now. Our 5 Things Capitol Cram Session. Straight ahead.
Denver International is one of the busiest airports in the country. We operate just like a city, and that takes